Texas correspondent, just came out of court. So, Evan Perez, let me begin with you. Tell me what happened.
Well, Brooke, it was a surreal scene. I was here when Rick Gates was charged, and, the scene was quite different today. He sat quietly, listened as the judge read from his court documents, and then he said, "Yes, Your Honor," repeatedly, as she asked him if he understood that what he was doing was pleading guilty, and he was giving up his right to certain rights, exactly, especially the fact that he might not be able to appeal the sentence that he's about to get. He said he understood, for instance, that his cooperation with Special Counsel Mueller would affect his sentence. And at this point, the judge told him that he could get between 57 and 71 months in prison. He's a man in his 40s, Brooke. He has kids. This is something that's been weighing on him. We know that he's been in talks with the Special Counsel's office for well over a month over whether or not to do a plea agreement. It is during one of those meetings with the Special Counsel on February 1st, during what's known as a proffer agreement meeting, that he lied, according to the Special Counsel. That's one of the two charges that he pled guilty to. One of them is to defraud the United States. The second one is a false statement charge. Again, that false statement, according to the government, came, and Rick Gates now admits, came during a meeting with the government earlier this month, where he was being interviewed by the FBI and the Special Counsel as part of a prospective plea agreement. Now, we do have a statement that just came in from Paul Manafort, and he says, quote, "Notwithstanding that Rick Gates pled guilty, I continue to maintain my innocence. I had hoped and expected my business colleague would have the strength to continue this battle to prove our innocence. For reasons yet to surface, he chose to do otherwise. This does not alter my commitment to defend myself against the untrue, piled-up charges contained in the indictments against Babe Brooke." He's referring to, obviously, the fact that not only does he face 12 counts here in this court here in Washington where I'm standing, but also 32 counts that were filed just yesterday in Alexandria, Virginia. Paul Manafort maintains his innocence.
Okay, so Shimon, so we have the statement that Evan just read from Paul Manafort. We know that Rick Gates was basically Manafort's right-hand man for years and years, had a front row seat to a lot. What does this guilty plea mean for Paul Manafort?
Well, and also a front row seat, or at least a seat during the Trump campaign.
Right.
So what does this mean for the Trump campaign? For Manafort, he knows everything, right? If you read these indictments, and these two indictments, one that was handed down yesterday, you learn a lot about this scheme. This alleged scheme, certainly, that Manafort was involved in. So he knows a lot. But the key question, I think, as Evan has said, is what exactly does the Special Counsel, what does the FBI, what do these prosecutors that are assigned to the Special Counsel, what exactly do they want from him? Yes, it is his cooperation against Manafort, but it's also, every indication that they want to put pressure on Manafort. There just seems to be a mounting amount of evidence now where for Manafort, perhaps, it could be very difficult for him to win a case at trial. Now, while the statement from Manafort certainly indicates he has no intention of pleading guilty or cooperating, we'll see. There could be more information that comes out down the line. And certainly, based on a lot of the reporting that both Evan and I have done, there has been a lot of focus from the FBI, from the investigators, on Manafort, because there's every indication that he has information and that they want the information that he has. And if you look at how they've been proceeding in this case and how they've been going, sort of chipping away at different people, gaining their cooperation. And let's keep in mind that this is now the third person associated to the president's campaign that has pleaded guilty and is cooperating. You have George Papadopoulos, the former campaign advisor, Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor, and now Rick Gates. So that's three people who had a seat at the table, who were part of the campaign, are now cooperating with the Special Counsel.
Smaller fish leading to the even bigger fish. Shimon and Evan, thank you so much for all of your reporting. And just for some perspective, I have with me now CNN contributor and former Nixon White House counsel, John Dean. So, John Dean, first just on this whole letter that we've seen now from really a more emotional Rick Gates, this whole I have had a change of heart and now this guilty pleas. How often do you see something like this, and what does it indicate to you?
Well, you generally don't see letters published like this because most cases where people flee don't have this kind of attention on them. and it's done privately and quietly. But he obviously wanted to send a statement to a broader public here, so that's why it's happened in this case. I'm sure it happens often. I'm somebody who pled guilty at one stage, and indeed warned my family beforehand, exactly. But I didn't have a change of heart because I felt that way for a long time.
On Gates flipping, help us understand what kind of information he will be able to provide to the Mueller team to help them in their larger investigation.
Well, it's clear that they want Manafort, and they're putting a lot of pressure on him. They've got indictments in two different cases, one in the Eastern District, one in the District of Columbia, tax evasion, tax fraud, money laundering. I mean, it's serious stuff, and the government is very good at proving these cases. So Manafort knows he's got to make a choice of trying to get a technical error of some kind in his case or something and prolong it and defer getting to jail, or he's going to have to decide to cooperate. But if he is convicted, they can still get his testimony. He can be summoned in front of a grand jury, immunized for further liability, and then forced to testify. There also is, of course, the Gordon Liddy option, which is you never talk to anybody under any circumstances until you write a book 7 or 8 years after the fact. I don't think he's going to do that, though.
Of all what Rick Gates has seen, right, whether it's having worked with Manafort for years, being part of the Trump campaign, one key moment that seems central to a lot of this is that Trump Tower meeting, right, with the Russians that was orchestrated by Don Jr. And I'm wondering, with Rick Gates now cooperating, John Dean, might they get more information because it was Manafort who also sat in on that meeting?
Yes, that's possible. It's very possible he knows a lot. He certainly has Eastern European connections, Russian indirect connections. He certainly was in an interesting situation when he joined the campaign. He needed money badly, and suddenly after he joined the campaign, lots of money started coming his way. So there are lots of things going on here. He also his statement last night was very curious in that he raised the fact that there of collusion in saying that he would not address all these situations. So that was kind of could be read as almost as a threat to Trump that he knows a lot and he can talk about a lot.
We talk about the smaller fish and the big fish, right? So you have Papadopoulos, you have Flynn, and now you have Gates, all of who are cooperating with the Mueller team. If you are Paul Manafort, and again, there is so much we don't know, but if you are advising him, what are you telling him right now?
Well, I think you'd have to tell him that he has a great likelihood he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. That Mueller looks like he has a case beyond a reasonable doubt, even before Gates pled, and now with Gates pleading, his business partner, I mean, this is really trouble. So we may hear more about this. The other thing that's not resolved right now is his bail situation. Right. Since he pled in October, they haven't been able to get the right security for the bail. Now, the courts will give him every break they can because our system, we provide bail and we don't put people in jail, and the standard is pretty high to actually confine somebody. But if he doesn't come up with some resources and some reason for them to believe he's going to show up at trial, he may well get confined even before his trial.
Before I let you go, I want to ask one question on that news conference between the Australian Prime Minister and the President, where President Trump was asked about this whole security clearance situation over at the White House, and he was asked specifically about Jared Kushner, who we all know, doesn't have full security clearance because of this Mueller investigation. So let me just play part of that exchange.
So General Kelly, who's doing a terrific job, by the way, is right in the middle of that. We inherited a system that's broken. It's a system where many people have just, it's taken months and months and months to get many people that do not have the complex financial, complicated financials. They don't have that, and it's still taken months. It's a broken system, and it shouldn't take this long. You know how many people are on that list? People with not a problem in the world. So that'll be up to General Kelly. General Kelly respects Jared a lot, and General Kelly will make that call. I won't make that call. I will let the general, who's right here, make that call.
So he started by saying, he feels like Jared Kushner's been treated unfairly, that he's not making a dime for his work there in the West Wing. And as you heard him, he believes Kushner's future is up to General Kelly. What did you make of that response?
Well, I'm not exactly a Trump fan, but I've got to say that was a presidential answer. And that's exactly what he should have said. Kelly's authority in this area stems directly from the president. The president has the power to issue a waiver. He could cut Jared slack and give him a clearance. So he is doing it properly in this instance. And something has gotten in his mind that he should do it properly. I don't know what that is, because most things he doesn't do properly.
But this one, presidential answer, and it's up to the chief of staff. John Dean, thank you so much. As always, appreciate you. Coming up next here, President Trump also doubling down on these insults for the Stoneman Douglas School resource officer who failed to enter that school as the shots were fired. Moments ago, the president saying school security guards, quote, don't love the children. We'll get reaction from a man who used to be one. Also ahead into CNN, past 911 calls from the Florida gunman made talking about his own emotional state in his own words. Coming up.